She knocked on my door at 6 a.m., handed me a slip worth $5,000 for illegal hunting. I looked at the fine, looked at her, and smiled. Because at that exact moment I knew. She had just given me the perfect excuse to burn this HOA to the ground. If she had any idea what was coming, she never would have knocked. But it was too late. Jack turns to the camera. Calm, steady. If you've ever dreamed of putting an HOA in their place, if you've ever felt powerless against people hiding behind rules, this story's for you. He leans in slightly, because this wasn't just about hunting. This was about control, intimidation, entitlement, and what happens when the wrong person pushes the wrong man 1 inch too far. A beat. You want justice. Keep watching. My name's Jack Whitmore. I'm 39. Spent 8 years in the military. Learned discipline strategy, how to stand my ground. Now I'm a remote software engineer. Quiet life, flexible hours, good pay. A year ago, I left the chaos of the city behind. Traded skyscrapers for pine trees. Seattle traffic for the stillness of green pines. I thought I'd found peace. But instead, I walked straight into a new kind of battlefield, one ruled by rules, and one woman's obsession with control. I met her on my second week. She rang the doorbell holding a welcome basket and a 12-page packet titled Green Pines HOA Standards. We're so thrilled to have you in the neighborhood, she smiled, but the kind that never touches the eyes. That was Karen Delaney, HOA president for 6 straight years, unchallenged, unchecked, unrelenting. She didn't run a neighborhood. She ran a kingdom. Every bush trimmed to regulation, every mailbox color approved. Even lawn height was a weekly debate. And don't even think about skipping a meeting. Karen didn't ask. She commanded. That moment, I realized. I hadn't moved into a quiet suburb. I'd stumbled into a real-life HOA dictatorship ruled by a woman who thought she owned the air we breathe. And me, yeah, I was about to become her worst nightmare. I came here for peace. That's it. Just birdsong, tall trees, and a little space to breathe. But Green Pines had other plans. It started small, petty even. Parked half an inch over the line. Violation. Trash bin still out at noon. Violation. Grass growing 1.5 inches above regulation. You guessed it, violation. And behind every passive-aggressive notice was one name. Karen. She didn't need cameras. The whole neighborhood was her camera. Retired, rich, and bored, she turned community standards into a personal power trip. The HOA wasn't just enforcing rules, it was choking the life out of every homeowner. And Karen. She was the remote control. Click, control your driveway. Click, control your front door. Click, control your peace of mind. I realized then this wasn't a neighborhood. It was a stage. And Karen, she thought she was the director. Time to flip the script. One morning I went hiking past the HOA boundary just to clear my head, and that's when I found it. 80 acres of untouched forest. No signs, no fences, no footprints. Just raw, quiet land like it had been forgotten by time. Perfect terrain. Thick woods, natural trails, deer tracks everywhere. It was a hunter's dream. I asked around. No one knew who owned it. Karen claimed it's part of the community preserve, but something felt off. So I dug. County records, old plats. Took me hours, but there it was. Raymond Turner, 82, Vietnam vet, moved to Arizona 5 years ago, still the legal owner. I found his number, called him, told him the truth I wasn't looking to buy, just to hunt, respectfully. His answer, "Son, it's yours to use. That land needs someone who still gives a damn." And just like that, Karen's kingdom had a crack. Raymond Turner's voice was raspy, worn, but clear. We talked for almost an hour. He told me stories about that land, how he'd raised 2 sons there, built a cabin by hand, how he used to hunt deer at sunrise and drink coffee by the fire at dusk, Haven't been back in years, he said. Legs don't work like they used to, but that land? It still deserves good footsteps. Then came the words that stuck with me. You respect it, you use it. Just don't let anyone ruin it, especially not some busybody HOA. I promised I would, and I meant it. That land wasn't just a place to hunt anymore. It was a gift, a responsibility, and whether he knew it or not, Raymond had just handed me the one thing Karen feared most. Something she couldn't control. It was barely past dawn. Crisp air, golden light slicing through the trees. I lined up a clean shot, dropped a buck. One shot, one kill, clean, ethical. I was dressing it out when I heard it heels crunching through brush, a voice shrieking like a siren on fire. Are you kidding me? You're murdering wildlife. This is a protected area. You're going to jail. Karen. Storming through the woods in designer boots and fury, holding her phone like a weapon already filming. I knew it. I knew you were dangerous. You just wait this time, we're pressing charges. I tried to speak, but she wasn't there to listen. She was performing for the camera for the HOA for herself. I stood there, blood on my gloves, deer at my feet, and Karen screaming like she'd caught a war criminal. She had no idea what she'd just stepped into. By noon, it was everywhere. Karen had posted a photo of me kneeling beside the buck knife in hand on the Green Pines community group. Zoomed in. No context, just raw shock value. The caption, "A killer lives next door. Is your family safe?" And just like that, the wolves came out. Comments exploded. Is this legal? I thought this was a safe neighborhood. Disgusting. One even said I should be evaluated. Facts didn't matter. Karen had painted the picture and people swallowed it whole. By 5 p.m., the HOA called an emergency meeting. Agenda, safety concerns, regarding resident behavior. I wasn't just the new guy anymore. I was now the threat. Target locked. Karen hadn't just embarrassed me. She'd declared war. And the best part? She had no clue I was already holding the winning hand. 2 days later it came. An envelope taped to my front door stamped with the HOA seal. Inside a typed letter, cold and clinical. You are hereby issued a fine of $5,000 for violating Green Pines Community Safety Code. Your actions are considered a threat to neighborhood well-being. A threat. Like I was some armed lunatic. All for legally hunting with permission on private land that wasn't even under HOA jurisdiction. Karen had weaponized the system, used fear gossip and red tape to make an example out of me, and the message was crystal clear. We run this place. You don't belong. That fine wasn't about money, it was about power, control, but here's what they didn't know. That letter. It didn't scare me, it lit a fuse, and the explosion was coming. The room was packed. Folding chairs, cheap coffee-nervous whispers. I showed up ready to speak, documents in hand, calm, respectful. But Karen had other plans. She stood at the front like a judge in a black cardigan flanked by her HOA loyalists. Projector on. Slide 1, a blown-up image of me with the deer. Slide 2, the $5,000 fine. This isn't about hunting, she said. This is about safety, about protecting our families. People stared. Phones were out, recording, watching, judging. A woman clutched her purse tighter. Someone muttered gun nut. Another said he's unstable. I raised my hand to respond. Karen cut me off. This is not a debate, Mr. Whitmore. No due process, no facts, just fear noise and performance. That night I realized something. I wasn't attending a meeting. I was standing trial in Karen's court. And the verdict already written. I stood up, cleared my throat, and laid it all out. Hunting license valid. Written permission from Raymond Turner signed and dated. County plat map proving the land was outside HOA control. I passed the papers to the board. Murmurs stirred, a few eyebrows lifted. Then Karen stepped forward. Didn't even look down. Didn't flinch. None of this matters, she said flatly. Green Pines has its own standards. Out-of-state documents hold no authority here. The room froze. You hunted next to our homes, with a firearm. That's all that counts. It didn't matter that I followed the law. To Karen, HOA policy was above the law. I opened my mouth to push back. She banged the desk with her pen. We've heard enough. That's when it hit me. This wasn't miscommunication. This was intentional. She wasn't enforcing rules, she was rewriting them to fit her war. I didn't slam the door, didn't argue, didn't shout. I just gathered my papers, nodded once, and walked out. Every pair of eyes followed me, some curious, most cold. To them, I wasn't Jack anymore. I was that guy, the one with the guns, the outsider, the danger. No one said a word, not even the neighbors I waved to every morning. Karen had done it. She'd painted me as the villain, and they bought it. I stepped into the cool night air, heart-pounding fists clenched. That meeting wasn't just a loss, it was a message. We don't care what's true, we care who's in charge. And Karen, she wasn't playing by the rules, she was writing them. Right then, I knew, this wasn't just about me anymore. This was war, and it was time I started planning my first move. A few days later, I was digging through public records trying to see if Karen actually had any legal hold on that land. And that's when I saw it. Tucked in the HOA's quarterly newsletter buried between landscaping updates and block party dates. Exciting news, Green Pines. HOA proudly announces the upcoming development of the Karen Delaney Nature Park coming spring. Next year, my eyes locked on the location listed. Lot number 82. Same exact land I'd hunted on. Raymond's land. Not HOA land. I stared at the screen. They were building a park in her name on land they didn't even own. That wasn't just arrogance, that was fraud. And in that moment, something shifted. I stopped playing defense. This wasn't about proving my innocence anymore. Now, it was about making Karen choke on the empire she built. Brick by lying brick. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Turns out, Karen hadn't just planned a park she'd raised over $75,000 for it. Flyers, HOA newsletters, community Facebook posts, all selling the same dream, a lush green sanctuary for our families designed by us, owned by us. Neighbors chipped in without question. Retirees donated thousands. One couple even held a bake sale for it. But here's the kicker. The land wasn't theirs. Never was. No deed, no rights, no approval from Raymond. Karen had sold the fantasy of preserving nature while trespassing on someone else's property. Mine now. And the money, no receipts, no public bids. Just pending development costs. All managed by her hand-picked committee. I wasn't looking at a park project anymore. I was staring down a community-funded con job. And if she thought I'd stay quiet, she picked the wrong neighbor. I took everything I had, every photo, every doc, every violation, and walked into Amanda Reyes's office. Sharp, no nonsense, real estate attorney with a reputation for dismantling shady HOA tactics. She flipped through the documents, eyes narrowing. They're bluffing, she said. HOA has no legal claim. No easement, no title, no development rights. That land's clean and very, very available. I asked one question, can I buy it? Her smile said everything. 3 weeks later, I drained my savings, signed the papers, closed the deal. 80 acres of wild forest, once just a peaceful escape, was now mine. Not for hunting, not for building, for war. Because the second that title hit my hand, Karen lost more than control. She lost the illusion, and she had no idea yet that every dollar she raised, every tree she promised was now sitting on my land, and I planned to let her keep digging. They showed up on a Tuesday. Karen in a blazer 2 sizes too tight, Kyle waddling behind her with a manila envelope. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, voice sharp as glass, "you're now in violation of multiple development interference clauses. This is a formal cease and desist." I didn't flinch, just opened the door wider. "Come in." We sat at the kitchen table. Karen slapped the letter down like it was a royal decree. Kyle stood awkwardly, sweating through his collar. I reached into my drawer, calm, deliberate, pulled out one sheet of paper, slid it across the table. The title, Deed. Actually, I said this land you're so concerned about interfering with, it's mine now. Karen's face dropped. Kyle blinked like a broken light bulb. Silence. Thick, heavy, glorious. And for the first time since I moved in, Karen had no words. Karen stared at the deed like it was written in another language. Her jaw tightened. Her hands clenched. Kyle looked ready to pass out. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "That land has been used by the community for over 10 years. It belongs to everyone." I leaned back, calm, controlled. "Not according to the county, not according to the law." Her voice cracked, part fury, part panic. "You can't just take it. It's not fair. Families hike there. Kids play there. That space is ours. But it wasn't about the community. It never was. It was about control hers. And now that grip was slipping. She threw one last card on the table. "We'll challenge this. Legally. Publicly." I didn't blink. "Good. Let's see how the public feels when they learn you raised 75 grand for a park on land you didn't even own." She froze. Check. 3 days later, they marched. Karen out front like a general megaphone in one hand, clipboard in the other. Dozens of neighbors behind her holding signs like, "Save our trails, nature belongs to everyone. No more land theft." It would have been laughable if it wasn't so loud. She shouted, "We demand access. We demand justice." But what she didn't expect, I'd already posted 5 bright red signs around the property line. Private property. No trespassing. Trespassers will be prosecuted. And just to drive it home, I invited a sheriff's deputy to stand at the trailhead, fully uniformed, sunglasses on, arms crossed. Karen lost it. This is a community crisis. The officer simply nodded. "Ma'am, this man owns the land. You step on it, you break the law." Her protest turned into pacing. And her followers. They started backing away fast. It was a quiet morning until the knock on my door wasn't Karen's for once. She introduced herself quickly, notebook in hand. "Emily Chen, Valley Chronicle." I heard there's a war over a park I let her in. Told her everything. Showed her the deed, the fundraiser flyers, the HOA meeting minutes, Raymond's letter, the $75,000 green space pipe dream. By the time I finished, her jaw was practically on the floor. Wait. They raised how much for a park on land they didn't own? I nodded, and planned to name it after Karen. She stared in disbelief, scribbling notes like fire. "This isn't a neighborhood dispute. This is fraud. Plain and simple." She stood, voice sharper now. "They wanted a story. Now they're getting one." As she walked out, I knew it. The war had just gone public. And Karen, she'd just lost control of the narrative. The call came that night, Megan, a quiet neighbor who always kept to herself. "Jack, I think you need to see something." She forwarded an old HOA expense report she'd dug up from last quarter. Buried under vague budget lines was one named Delaney and Grant Design Group billed $74,800 for park research and planning. I froze. I'd seen that name before. Quick search? Boom. Karen's husband, Richard Delaney, CEO. Kyle's sister, Emma Grant, CFO. The park fund hadn't just vanished. It had been laundered through family. No bids, no contracts, no oversight. Just a neat little funnel from the HOA account into their own pockets. I sat back, stunned. What started as HOA pettiness had now crossed a line. This wasn't just fraud. This was organized theft under the disguise of nature trails and tree signs. Karen hadn't just overstepped. She'd gone full criminal. She showed up just after dark, hood up, sunglasses on, looking over her shoulder like she was walking into a spy movie. Linda, HOA secretary. Always quiet, always taking notes, never causing waves. Until now. She handed me a small USB drive, fingers shaking. "I can't take it anymore," she whispered. "I've watched them steal, lie, rewrite minutes, and everyone just nods along." I opened the laptop. Inside, the drive gold. Invoices, fake meetings, backdated approvals. Tens of thousands shuffled between bogus accounts all traced to Delaney and Grant Design Group. "They think no one's watching," she said. "But I've been copying everything for months." I looked at her. "You know this puts you in the fire, right?" She nodded. "Let it burn. Just make sure it burns them too." This wasn't just a fight anymore. It was a takedown in progress. And now I had the match. By morning, everything was in motion. I handed the USB to Amanda, my attorney, and she barely blinked before forwarding it to a state investigator. Within 48 hours, 2 unmarked cruisers rolled into Green Pines. This time, they weren't there to back up Karen. They were asking questions. Warrants followed. HOA records were seized. Karen's smile, gone. Kyle vanished from meetings. The Green Pines HOA was now officially under criminal investigation charges pending for embezzlement fraud and misuse of community funds. And just like that, the neighborhood power structure crumbled. Emily, from the Valley Chronicle, dropped a headline that shook the HOA to its core: Green Pines under fire, $75,000 missing in HOA fraud scandal. For once, the spotlight wasn't on me. It was on them and Karen. She was finally cornered in the one place she'd never planned to be reality. The next bombshell came from the last person I expected, Robert Gaines, former HOA board member. Resigned 2 years ago without a word. Until now. He knocked on my door with a flash drive in hand and a guilty look on his face. "I should have come forward sooner," he said, "but I've had enough of the lies." Inside the drive, a full audio recording from an HOA board meeting dated 6 years back. Karen's voice. Crystal clear. "The owner's gone. No one's checking. Just use the land. In a few years, no one will care. It'll be ours anyway." Laughter followed. Kyle chiming in, "What they don't know can't hurt 'em." It wasn't just shady, it was premeditated. They knew it wasn't theirs. They just gambled no one would ever call them on it. Well, I just did. And now the house of cards was falling fast. Karen wasn't done yet. She called it a community walk-in, but everyone knew what it was: a full-blown land grab disguised as a neighborhood stroll. Flyers went out. This Saturday. Reclaim our park. She rallied the same neighbors with signs and slogans trying to resurrect her crumbling support. But what she didn't know, the cops had already been tipped off. And I'd made it official no trespassing, enforced by law. So when the group marched up the trail, Karen out front, flag in hand, they met 2 squad cars, a deputy with crossed arms and a clipboard full of names. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "step foot on that land today, and I will start making arrests." Silence. The crowd looked at each other, then at Karen. One by one, they peeled off. No chants, no cheers. Just a quiet, awkward retreat back to their cul-de-sacs. Karen didn't lose the land that day. She lost control. Late one night, a janitor at the HOA office noticed the lights on in the archive room. Strange no one was scheduled. So he called it in. By the time officers arrived, they found Ethan Delaney, Karen's husband, and Clara Grant, Kyle's younger sister, elbows deep in a box of documents. Flash drives, shredders, 2 duffel bags. 1 open file labeled Park Fund Draft Expense Reports. Caught red-handed. Body cams recorded the whole thing. Ethan fumbling excuses, Clara stammering about just cleaning up. But the police weren't buying it. "Step away from the files," one officer ordered. "Hands where we can see them." They were both detained on the spot. Evidence seized. Chain of custody locked tight. That wasn't just panic cleanup. It was obstruction of justice, and now they were on record in uniform under lights. Karen's empire wasn't just cracking. It was actively collapsing from the inside. The room was full, but different this time. No whispers, no tension. Just resolve. An emergency HOA meeting had been called. Only this time it wasn't by Karen. It was by the residents. Karen sat stiff at the front, lips pressed, flanked by an empty chair, Kyle's. Across the room, voices rose. "We've had enough. You lied to us. You stole from us." Then came the motion. Effective immediately. We demand Karen Delaney resign from all HOA duties. No shouting, just a sea of raised hands. Even some of her former allies didn't hesitate. Karen didn't speak, didn't cry. She just stood up and walked out. No applause, no grace. Sarah Collins, a quiet but fair neighbor, was unanimously chosen as interim president. As she stepped forward, she said simply, "This HOA will never be used as a weapon again." And just like that, Green Pines began to heal. Weeks after the storm settled, I walked the edge of my land, quiet now, peaceful again. And that's when I knew exactly what to do. Not out of spite, but out of respect. With help from local rangers, I built a legal registered walking trail complete with signs, safety notices, and posted hours. No hidden agendas, no HOA interference, just clean earth and clear rules. At the entrance, I installed a wooden sign, Raymond Turner Memorial Trail, in honor of the man who trusted a stranger with his forest. Word spread fast. Families returned this time with permission. Kids laughed. Hikers smiled. Even Sarah brought her dog. This time, the land served everyone the right way. No politics, no fences of control. Just community, real honest, and finally, free. Raymond's legacy had been restored, and for the first time since I'd moved in, Green Pines actually felt like home. It didn't make the national news, but around Green Pines, it was everything. In county court, Karen Delaney stood pale and silent as the judge read the sentence. 10 years disqualification from holding any public civic or HOA-related position. Full restitution of community funds. 5 years probation. No prison, but you breathe wrong, and that changes. Ethan, Clara, and Kyle received similar fates. No mugshots, no orange jumpsuits, but their reputations wrecked. A week later, a quiet moving van pulled up to Karen's house. No waves, no goodbye, just drawn curtains and cardboard boxes. By morning, she was gone. No forwarding address, no farewell post on the HOA page, just a for sale sign, and silence. The rain was over, not with handcuffs or fireworks, but with exile. Self-inflicted, deserved, and in its own poetic way, perfect. Jack stands in the middle of the forest, taking a deep breath. I used to think freedom was living far from the city, but real freedom is when no one can take away your right to do what's right. The screen fades to black. A rapid sequence of images flashes a front door plastered with violation notices. A woman crying beside her uprooted vegetable garden. A boy holding his father's hand staring at the playground he's banned from. Jack's voice returns lower, steadier. I'm not here to fight anyone. I just refuse to let fear silence me ever again. Black screen. Have you ever been threatened, controlled, or abused by an HOA? Comment, "Me too," and share your story. Final words appear slowly. Because once we start speaking up, they can't silence us all.